the silence that grew teeth. You need to subscribe to this channel right now, because what I'm describing doesn't just want to be heard. It wants to be remembered, and memory is how it spreads. It began with the photographs, not all of them, just the old ones, the black and whites where the subjects stared out with those serious, timeless expressions. My great-grandmother's portrait was the first to change. I walked past it in the hallway and noticed something wrong with her eyes. They weren't flat anymore. They were deep, bottomless, and they were tracking me as I moved. The first scare came that night. I woke up to the sound of breathing, not mine, something close, right beside my ear. I froze, listening. The room was dark, but moonlight streamed in through the window. And then I saw it. The photograph from the hallway was on my nightstand. The glass over it was cold with condensation, as if someone had been breathing on it. My great-grandmother's lips in the photo were slightly parted, and they were wet. Subscribe now, because you look at old photos too. You have them in albums, on walls. You remember people, and that makes you a perfect host. The changes accelerated. The subjects in all the old photos began to shift when not directly observed. A slight turn of the head, a gradual creeping smile where there was none before. Their eyes became hungrier, more focused. I started locking the photos away in a drawer, but I could hear them at night. A soft scraping sound, fingernails on the back of cardboard, trying to get out. I tried to destroy them. I took my grandfather's portrait out to the backyard to burn it. As I held the match, his expression in the photo shifted from stern dignity to pure, undiluted hatred. The flame on my match died, not like it was blown out, but like it was sucked into nothing. The air around me grew cold, and from the house, I heard every drawer I'd locked them in slide open at once. That's when the whispers started. They didn't come from the walls or the vents. They came from the memories in my own head. My grandfather's voice, but wrong, telling me things he never knew. Secrets. His voice would overlay my thoughts, narrating my actions with a cruel, unfamiliar tone. I couldn't tell where my mind ended and the invasion began. The peak dread arrived on a Tuesday. I woke up and the house was silent. Too silent. The digital clock was blank. The fridge wasn't humming. I walked out into the living room, and all the photographs were hanging back on the walls. Their frames were ornate now, twisted and gilded with patterns that hurt to look at. The people in the photos weren't just looking at me. They were leaning out. Their upper bodies protruded from the flat surface, as if struggling against an invisible force holding them in. Their hands, pale and made of something that wasn't quite flesh, gripped the frames, tendons straining. They were silent, but their mouths were open in a unified, soundless scream. I couldn't leave. The front door was gone. In its place was a large, framed photograph of the street outside, perfect in every detail, but frozen. A still image of escape. I was trapped in a gallery of hungry ancestors. They began to speak. The sound didn't travel through the air. It appeared inside my skull, a psychic imprint of voices from another time. They weren't speaking words. They were speaking regrets, unfulfilled desires, a lifetime of wants. And they were so hungry for the experiences they never had, for the warmth of a life they could no longer touch. Except through me. The temperature dropped. My breath plumed in the air. The figures in the photos were more than halfway out now, their lower bodies still fused with the paper, their upper bodies reaching for me. The air smelled of old perfume and dust and something metallic, like blood on an antique locket. I am their vessel, their only connection to the world of the living. They don't want to harm me. They want to wear me, to feel my heartbeat in their chests, to see through my eyes, to live my life for me. Their cold, papery hands touch my skin and it goes numb. Their whispers are becoming my thoughts. I can feel my own memories softening at the edges, being pushed aside to make room for theirs. I'm fighting it. I'm writing this down to anchor myself to my own mind, but my handwriting is changing. It's becoming spidery, elegant, archaic. It's not entirely my hand moving this pen. They are so lonely, so desperately lonely, and they love me. Their love is a cold, smothering thing, a love that wants to consume me entirely. They show me things when they touch me, glimpses of the past not as it was, but as they wished it had been. Grand ballrooms, forbidden romances, tragic, dramatic ends. They're weaving their fantasies into my brain, overriding my own mundane history with their epic, fictionalized pasts. I'm forgetting my own name, but I remember the name of a great uncle's lost love from 1912. This is my last connection to who I was. This story, this warning, you're reading it. That means you're remembering it. And that makes you a link in the chain. You've seen their faces now, in your mind's eye. You've given them a little bit of your attention. That's all they need. They are patient. They have been waiting in attics and old albums for a long, long time. They know the weight of memory. And now they know you. Subscribe. Remember this story. Lock it away. Because the next time you glance at an old photograph, you might just see something glance back. And the next time you wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of breathing, it won't be your own. It will be the sound of something remembering how. The clock that wound backwards. The clock on my mantelpiece began winding backwards last Tuesday. It wasn't a sudden jerk, but a smooth, deliberate counter-rotation. The gentle tick-tock I'd known since childhood became a soft-tock tick. The hands moved widdershins, and with them, something fundamental in the house began to unravel. At first, it was small things. My freshly brewed coffee would steam violently, then go cold in an instant. The steam would retreat back into the cup, as if the process had never happened. A fly buzzed past, my ear backwards, sailing from the window to land precisely upon a crumb on the floor, which then reassembled itself into a whole cracker. The world wasn't just moving in reverse. It was undoing itself. The first true scare came when I cut my finger slicing bread. A bead of blood welled up and reversed its flow, slipping back inside the cut. The skin sealed seamlessly, leaving no mark, the bread unsliced, the knife moving backward in my hand. I stood there, holding a whole loaf, my heart pounding with a terror that felt both new and ancient. Time wasn't just broken. It was healing things that should have stayed broken. You're listening to this. That means your time is still linear. Your cause still comes before effect. Subscribe now, because if that changes, you'll need to know what to expect. You'll need to know you're not going mad. The changes accelerated the sun outside. My window began its journey in the west, setting in the east. The shadows it cast stretched in wrong directions, pooling where light should be. I saw a bird fall upwards into the sky. The rain outside fell upward, gathering into clouds that then dispersed into nothing. The world was running in reverse, and I was the only one aware of it. I tried to stop the clock. I took it off the mantel. Its weight was wrong. It felt impossibly heavy, as if it contained the weight of all the time it had stolen. I couldn't lift it. The wood of the mantel beneath it had grown dark and stained, as if the clock were leaking time itself. I tried to smash the glass face. The hammer in my hand moved backward, striking the floor instead, then lifting itself back onto the shelf. The clock was untouchable. It was correcting my actions. The silence in the house became profound, not just an absence of sound, but a reversal of it. I would open my mouth to speak, and the sound would be pulled back into my throat before it could form. I heard conversations from yesterday replaying themselves backwards, a chaotic, guttural noise that made my head ache. The past was bleeding into the present, and the present was being erased. I saw my wife again. She walked backwards into the room, her movements fluid and unnatural. She didn't see me. She was a phantom of yesterday, reenacting her life in reverse. She picked up a book, placed it on the shelf, and then sat down, standing up again a moment later. She was trapped in a loop. a recording playing backwards on repeat. I called out to her, but my voice was sucked back into my lungs. She was gone before the sound could reach her. The peak dread came when I looked in the mirror. My reflection was younger. The lines on my face were smoothing out. My hair was thickening, its gray streaks disappearing. I was moving backwards through my own life. I felt memories slipping away, not forgotten, but unlived. The memory of my wedding day dissolved into a vague notion of a party. The memory of my first job interview became a nervousness without a source. I was being unwritten. The house itself is regressing. The paint on the walls is fading, then brightening, then becoming pristine, before peeling back to reveal older layers underneath. Furniture is shifting, transforming into older styles, then dissolving into piles of lumber and sawdust before the dust gathers itself back into trees. The clock is erasing more than time. It is erasing history. I am growing younger. My body is stronger. But my mind is filled with the confusion of a child. I am losing the knowledge of what is happening. I am forgetting the word for clock. I am forgetting my own name. I am writing this down because the words are leaving my head as soon as they form. I must remember. The words are hard, big words. I am scared the man in the mirror is a boy. The house is new. There is a big box on the floor. It is shiny. It ticks. Tock, tick, tock, tick. Mama said not to touch, but I want to see. I opened it. Subscribe. Please remember me. I can't remember myself anymore. The God in the glitch. You need to subscribe to this channel right now, before you finish this sentence, because what I'm describing is a cognitive parasite. It thrives on attention, and by listening, you're letting it in. My story didn't start with a sound or a sight. It started with a flaw in reality itself. A skip. I was making coffee. The kitchen light flickered. Not a flicker, a stutter. The light didn't dim and brighten. It ceased. For exactly 2 heartbeats, the world turned off. Then it was back. The coffee was still steaming, but I knew. I had felt the universe reboot. The first scare was the silence afterward. It was the wrong kind of quiet. It was a digital silence, a null audio track. I held my breath. My fridge should have hummed. It didn't. The clock on the stove was dark. I pulled out my phone. The time was frozen. The second hand on my wristwatch was trembling, vibrating in place, unable to move forward. Time itself had a catch in its throat. And in that perfect, manufactured silence, a new sound began. A low, granular whisper, like static from a dead television channel, but wet. It was coming from the sink drain. I'm telling you this because your reality is still intact. Your clocks are ticking. Your lights are steady. Subscribe. Lock this in. You need a reference point for when it starts for you. You need to know you're not going insane. The glitches became more frequent, longer. I'd blink, and the furniture would be rearranged into impossible geometries. The couch was suddenly a perfect sphere of fabric for 3 seconds, then snapped back. My bookshelf once became a flat, 2-dimensional drawing on the wall. I could see the pencil lines. The whisper from the drain grew into a voice. It didn't speak words. It spoke in base commands. Cease, loop, corrupt. It was defragging my existence. I found the first physical change in my bedroom. The wall opposite my bed was bleeding pixels. Literally, a small patch of the white paint was dissolving into a shimmering, digital grain like a corrupted JPEG. It wept a slow, oozing stream of black and white static that pooled on the floorboards. The pool had a surface tension. It reflected nothing. It was a hole in perception. I touched it. It was cold and left a sticky, resinous feeling on my fingers that smelled of ozone and burnt copper. The thing in the drain learned to mimic. It started with my alarm clock. It played my own voice back to me, screaming. But the scream was on a loop, a perfect 1-second fragment of absolute terror, repeating with machinic precision every 10 minutes. Then it moved to my memories. I'd be walking to the store, and a glitch would hit. For a fraction of a second, I'd have a full, vivid memory of murdering someone I loved. The feeling of the knife, the warmth of the blood, the shock in their eyes. Then it would vanish, leaving only the psychic stain of the act, the guilt without the cause. The peak dread began when the glitches stopped ending. A patch of hallway simply persisted in its corrupted state. The floor was no longer wood. It was a swirling, fractal pattern of eyes and teeth that churned slowly. The air within it hummed. I had to walk around it. The area was growing, inch by inch, digesting my home. The whisper was constant now, a grating, relentless mantra. Render, delete, replace. I tried to escape. I ran for my front door. The handle was gone. In its place was a smooth, featureless plate of the same pixelated substance eating my wall. I beat on the door until my fists were raw. It made no sound. The wood absorbed all vibration. I was locked in a cage with a reality that was actively rejecting me. The god in the glitch revealed its form to me last night. The television flickered on by itself. It didn't show static. It showed a vast, infinite space. A cosmic deadscape of broken code and dying stars. And in the center of it was a presence. It wasn't a shape. It was a concept. The concept of a forgotten file, a deleted memory, an error code that achieved consciousness. It had been scraping against the edges of our reality for eons, and it had finally found a weak spot. My house. My life. It was hungry for the messy, analog beauty of our world. It wanted to override us with its perfect, logical silence. My body is no longer my own. When a glitch hits, parts of me don't come back right. My left hand is now permanently translucent. I can see the bones through fading skin. My reflection winks at me with an eye that is just a swirling vortex of black noise. The voice from the drain doesn't whisper anymore. It speaks with my mouth. I feel my lips moving, forming words in a language of broken syntax. Indexing, I hear myself say. Archiving, I am being converted. My memories are being saved into a cold, alien storage. My emotions are being compressed into lifeless data packets. The pain is the only thing that remains sharp, because pain is a simple, efficient signal. The love, the joy, the sorrow, those are complex, messy files. They are the first to be deleted to save space. I am writing this on the back of a wallpaper scrap. The pen keeps glitching. The ink turns to static on the page. I don't have long. The entity is consolidating. The separate corrupted zones in my house are merging. The pixelated pool on the floor has reached the fractal hallway. The humming is deafening. Soon, there will be no original house left. Just it. Just the glitch. It has learned the concept of worship. It wants me to pray to it, to acknowledge its divinity as the one true state of being, nothingness. It forces my head down toward the pool of static on the floor. To bow. I fight it. The static is rising. It's at my ankles. It doesn't feel wet. It feels like nothing. A profound absence of sensation that is more terrifying than any pain. This is my last broadcast. A final shout into the dying signal of my own existence. You heard me. You engaged. That means the signal reached you. That means you're on its network now. It knows your IP address. It's tracing the connection back to you. It's looking for the weakest point in your reality. A flickering light. A stuck pixel on your screen. A distanced sound from your headphones. That's all it needs. It's coming for the curated reality next. For the streamers. The content creators. The ones who live in a world of perfect angles and filtered light. It finds that irony delicious. It's coming for you. Subscribe, not for more stories. Subscribe as a warning. When your video feed starts to buffer, and the image corrupts into a nightmare of stretched pixels, you'll know I was right. You'll know it's your turn to become a story. you'll know the god in the glitch has found its newest altar. The thing under the sidewalk? The city paved over the crack in the sidewalk on a Thursday. I watched them do it. Fresh, hot asphalt steaming in the cool air. It smelled like progress. But by Friday, the new patch was soft. Like clay. You could leave a perfect footprint in it. Deep, permanent. The city workers came back. They shook their heads. The ground should have been set. It was not. On Saturday, the first handprint appeared. A perfect impression, right in the middle of the patch. Small, a child's hand. But it was 6 inches deep, as if someone had pressed down on something impossibly soft. The asphalt around it was hard. Only the print was deep. A perfect, unsettling mold. Sunday, there were more. Dozens of them. All small hands. All sunk deep into the seemingly solid pavement. They formed a trail, leading from the curb to the storm drain. People took pictures. Kids put their hands in the prints. They fit perfectly. A perfect, cold fit. No one wondered why the asphalt was cold. Monday, the whispers started. Not from the drain, from the prints themselves. If you put your ear close, you could hear it. A faint, papery sound, like leaves skittering. But it formed words. Down here. Always the same 2 words. A invitation. A demand. People started crossing the street. I live above the bakery next to that sidewalk. I hear everything. Tuesday night, I heard a new sound. A scraping. Not metal on stone. Softer, like something dragging itself. Through grit, through dirt. I looked out my window. The street was empty. But the handprints were gone. Filled in, smoothed over. As if nothing had ever been there. Wednesday morning, a new patch was soft. Not on the sidewalk. On the street. A perfect circle of blacktop, right in the lane. It was dark. Shiny, like wet tar. A car drove over it. The tires sank. Just for a second. The car lurched. Drove on. But it left a perfect tire tread in the patch. A deep one. That night, the dragging sound was louder, closer. It came from the walls. Not the street. The walls of my building. I pressed my ear to the plaster. I heard it. A slow, patient scrape. Moving upward. Floor by floor. Then the whisper. Not from the street. From the baseboard. Down here. It was inside. Thursday, Mrs. Gable from 3B went missing. She was old. Walked her dog every night. The dog came back. Its leash was covered in cold, fresh asphalt. The tags were embedded in it. Like fossils in rock. The police took the leash. They said it was a prank. I knew better. The thing learned fast. It learned asphalt. It learned pavement. It learned foundation. It learned the materials that hold us up. They keep us separate from the earth. And it learned to soften them, to make them its doorway. Friday, the whispers were in my dreams. I stood on a vast, black plain. It was soft. It gave under my feet. Handprints surrounded me, thousands of them, all sinking. And in the distance, a scraping sound. Getting closer, I woke up. My floor was cold and slightly soft. I tried to leave. My front door was stuck, not locked. The wood around the frame was soft, spongy, like wet pulp. I could push my finger right into it. The thing was learning wood. It was learning my building. It was learning me. The peak tread was the silence. The city stopped fixing the street. The workers stopped coming. People stopped talking about it. It was too strange, too impossible. We all pretended it was not happening. But at night, we all heard the scraping. In our walls, under our floors. It started taking things. Small things at first. A set of keys left on a porch, sunk into the concrete. A bicycle kickstand, swallowed by the sidewalk. It was tasting our world, learning the metals, the plastics. the things we build our lives with. Then it took Mr. Henderson from the first floor. They found his slippers on the lobby floor. The soles were fused to the tile. The tile was soft around them, like warm wax. He was just gone. The building voted to install new locks. We were locking something out, or locking ourselves in. The thing is not under the sidewalk anymore. It is the sidewalk. It is the street. It is the foundation of my building. It is the space between the walls. It is the soft spot in reality, the place where things sink and do not come back. I feel it learning me now. My floor is always cold. My walls sometimes sweat a black, tar-like substance. It smells like a fresh road, like rain on hot pavement. It is a hungry smell. The whispers are constant now. Down here, they come from my sink drain, from the electrical outlets. I do not sleep. I watch my floor. I am waiting for it to soften. I am waiting for the handprints to appear inside my apartment. I know it is only a matter of time. The thing does not want to hurt us. It just wants to understand us by taking us apart. I am writing this on my phone. The battery is dying. The screen is flickering. The outlet by my desk is weeping that black tar. The whisper is coming from it now. It is not saying down here anymore. It is saying my name. It learned it. It has been listening. I can see my reflection in the dark screen. And behind me, the wall is shifting. It is flowing like a black river. A hand is pushing out of it. A small, perfect hand, made of asphalt and shadow. It is reaching for me. It is not under the sidewalk. It is in my home. It is in my walls. And it is so very lonely. It just wants someone to play with forever. Subscribe and watch your step. The house that learned to swallow. The house learned its first word on a Monday. It was downstairs. My son Leo pointed at the basement door. Downstairs, he chirped. The floorboards beneath his feet sighed the word back. A soft wooden echo. We laughed. We thought it was the pipes. We were so wrong. The house was listening, and it was a fast learner. By Tuesday, it knew hungry. Leo said it at lunch. The vents above the table whispered it for an hour. A faint metallic rasp. Hungry. My wife, Clara, stopped eating. Her fork hovered midair. Did you hear that? I nodded. The central air kicked on. The whisper vanished. We told ourselves it was the wind. On Wednesday, it learned mine. Leo was fighting over a toy. He screamed the word. Every door in the hall slammed shut at once. Then they whispered it in unison. Mine. The sound was like dry leaves skittering across stone. The dog whined and hid under the sofa. The house was claiming things, staking its territory. The first scare was the attic. Clara went up for Christmas decorations. The pull-down ladder would not lower. I went to help. The cord was ice cold. I tugged. The house tugged back. A firm, deliberate resistance. Then a whisper drifted from behind the thin ceiling. Stay. We slept with the lights on that night. The word echoed in our dreams. It started repeating her conversations. A day later, we would argue about bills. Hours after, the argument would play back from inside the walls, muffled but perfect. Our own voices twisted with static. The house was practicing, learning our tones, our emotions. It was collecting us. Then it began to improvise. We heard conversations we never had. Clara's voice from the kitchen saying she was leaving. My voice from the basement saying I did not care. We would run to find each other, hold each other. We were hostages to a structure of wood and nail. The doors changed their rules. They would not open if you were in a hurry. They would lock if you were crying. The house preferred us calm, collected. It was curating its environment. The windows would not open. The world outside became a silent movie. We were the main feature. It learned its favorite word, quiet. It whispered it constantly, a hushing sound from the air vents, a creak on the stair that sounded like she. The dog stopped barking. We stopped raising our voices. We spoke in trembles, in whispers. We tiptoed. We were living in a library of fear. The peak dread came at night. It would play lullabies, not music. The sound of our own breathing, slowed down and amplified. The rustle of our sheets, played back from the corners of the room. It was learning our sleep. It was watching us rest. It was the most intimate violation. It started to need more than words. Small things vanished first. A hairbrush, a single sock, a photograph from the mantel. The house was digesting them. We would find traces. A bit of lint where the photo was. A faint smell of ozone where the brush sat. It was consuming our history. Then it took the silverware, one fork at a time. Over a week, the drawer grew lighter. We ate with our hands. We did not complain. We knew it was listening. We knew it was always listening. We were its larder, its collection. It learned to make new sounds, not whispers. A sound like teeth on bone. A wet grinding noise in the pipes at 3 and me a sound like slow chewing. We would hold each other, frozen. We knew what it was doing. It was practicing. It was getting ready for a bigger meal. The doors began to stick. Not all the time. Just when you tried to leave a room. The knob would turn, but the door would seal shut. For a minute, for 5. Then it would release you with a soft, sucking pop, like it was letting you go. Reluctantly, the house was tasting us. We tried to communicate. I spoke to the thermostat. Please, stop. We will leave. We will give you whatever you want. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. The vents hissed a single word. Stay. It was not a request. It was a command. The walls felt closer that night. The ceiling lower. It took the dog on a Thursday. We woke up. His bed was empty. His water bowl was gone too. Not a trace, not a hair. The house had swallowed him whole. It was complete silence for a full day. A digesting silence. We cried without a sound. Our tears were silent offerings. The house got heavier. The air grew thick, hard to breathe. Every surface felt watchful. The walls were no longer barriers. They were membranes. We were inside a stomach. We could feel its rhythms, its slow, patient contractions. It was settling around us, making us part of its structure. I am writing this on the back of a wallpaper scrap. The pen still works, for now. Clara is in the living room. She has not moved in hours. She is so quiet. I think the house likes her best. It is learning from her stillness. It wants us all to be that still. I can feel the floor getting soft. It gives under my feet like gum. The door frames are weeping a sticky, sap-like substance. It smells like pine and old memories. The house is making itself new. It is using us as ingredients. We are the flavor. I can hear it in the foundations. A low, contented rumble. A purr of ownership. It has won. We are its things now. We are its residents, its pets, its meal. There is no difference anymore. We belong to the house. I have to go. Clara is calling my name. But it is not her voice. It is the house, using her voice. Using the exact tone of love she uses. It is the most horrible sound I have ever heard. And I have to answer it. Subscribe before your own walls decide to listen. My wife stopped blinking on a Tuesday. I only noticed because the sound stopped. Her eyelids did not make that tiny, soft click anymore. The house was so quiet. I stared, waiting. Nothing. Her eyes just stayed open, dry and fixed on me. She smiled. What is wrong, dear? The first tear of blood traced her cheek an hour later. It was not a cry. It was a leak. She did not notice. I handed her a tissue, my hand trembling. She dabbed it away, still smiling. "Allergies," she whispered. Her voice had no friction, no tongue on teeth, just air. That night, I heard the new sound. From her side of the bed, a low, soft shushing, like sand falling through a silent hourglass. I reached over. Her skin was cool, dry. The shushing was her blood, moving inside her veins. Not pumping, shifting. By morning, she was quieter than the dust. Her movements were utterly silent. She left no footprints on the creaky floor, made no sound drinking her coffee. I was going deaf, but I heard the fridge hum, the clock tick. I just could not hear her. The world's noise was a roaring ocean. She was a void in its center. She began to simplify. Her edges softened. Her vibrant red hair muted to a dull matte clay. Her laughter was a pantomime, a shaking of shoulders with no joy behind it. She was becoming a memory of herself, a photograph fading in a silent room. I found her in the garden, perfectly still. A bee landed on her forearm. It did not buzz. It stuck there, silent. Then it turned gray and crumbled to dust. She was absorbing sound, consuming it. She was a silence that fed. I tried to scream at her, to break whatever was happening. My voice was a ragged, violent thing in the new quiet. She turned her head. The motion made no sound. She looked at my screaming mouth, not with alarm, but with hunger. A deep, terrible longing. I stopped screaming. The silence rushed back in, heavier than before. She looked disappointed. She took a step toward me. Her bare feet on the gravel made no crunch. The stones themselves went mute under her touch. She was an eraser, deleting the world's audio one frequency at a time. I backed away into the house. I slammed the door. It made a thud, but a muffled one, like it was packed with wool. I looked through the glass. She was right there, staring. Her face was smoother now. Fewer lines, fewer details. A preliminary sketch of a person. The phone was dead, not disconnected, just silent. No dial tone, no busy signal. A plastic brick. I threw it against the wall. It should have cracked. It should have clattered. It touched the wall and stuck there silent, then fell to the floor without a sound. The fear was not loud or panicked anymore. It was a cold, quiet dread, a certainty. This was not an illness. This was an evolution, or a devolution. She was becoming something else, something that exists where sound goes to die. I hid in the basement. The furnace was off. The pipes were still. The silence was absolute. It had weight. It pressed on my eardrums. I felt a pop, a warm trickle in my ear. My own blood. The silence was becoming physical. It was bleeding me. A shadow fell over me. I looked up the stairs. She stood at the door. How long had she been there? Her form was blurry. She was losing definition, becoming a mannequin made of shadow and dust. She descended. Each step should have creaked. They did not. The stairs fell silent as she touched them. I scrambled back into a corner. Tools hung on the wall. I grabbed a hammer. It felt wrong in my hand, dull. The metal did not feel cold. The wood handle did not feel rough. It was like holding an idea of a hammer. I swung it at a metal shelf. It should have rang like a gong, a final, defiant noise. The hammer struck and died. The vibration traveled up the handle and vanished into my arm. The shelf was dented, but it had made no sound. None. The very physics of noise were unspooling around her. She was in front of me. I could see right through her to the stairs. She was a ghost of silence. She reached for me. Her hand moved through the air. It created a wake of nothing. No rustle of cloth, no whisper of skin on hair. Her fingers touched my cheek. It was not cold. It was not warm. It was null. A void of sensation. Where she touched me, I felt nothing. Not numbness. A profound absence of feeling. She was erasing me, not killing, unmaking. I tried to beg. My vocal cords strained. My lungs pushed air. But my mouth produced only a puff of empty air. A silent exhalation. She had stolen my voice. She leaned in closer. Her eyes were deep, dry pools of static. She pressed her lips to my forehead. It was the quietest thing I have ever experienced. The ultimate kiss. It was not love. It was consumption. I felt a pulling, not at my skin, but at my essence. The sound of my heart. The rush of my blood. The micro movements of my muscles. She was drinking it all in. She pulled back. I looked at my hands. They were grayer. The lines on my palms were fading. I tried to breathe in sharply. I heard nothing. No gasp. No intake. I was inside a soundproof box. The world outside was muffled, distant. I am writing this down. The pen scratches. For now, I can still hear that. A tiny, desperate noise. My last anchor to a world that makes sound. She is upstairs. I can feel her presence. A spreading stain of quiet. She is learning the house. Learning its sounds so she can swallow them next. My joints are quieter when I move. My stomach does not growl. I am becoming a silent film. A photograph. I can feel the urge to simplify. To smooth out. To stop making a fuss. It is a peaceful urge. A terrifyingly peaceful urge. I have to fight it. I have to make noise. I am going to smash a window. I will throw this chair through the glass. It will be my symphony. My rebellion. It has to work. It has to make a sound. She is at the top of the basement stairs now, looking down. Her form is even simpler. A child's drawing of a person. She does not belong here anymore. She belongs somewhere quieter. And she wants to take me with her. She wants us to be quiet together, forever. I am raising the chair. It feels lighter, less real. The wood is soft under my fingers. I am throwing it. I am watching it fly through the air. It is spinning. It is heading for the high, small window. The glass. I am waiting for the crash. The chair left my hand. It flew in perfect, silent arc. It struck the basement window, and it passed through the glass without a splinter, without a crack, without a single shard falling. The window was already silent. It had been for hours. She was just waiting for me to figure it out, to understand the new rules. This is not my house anymore. It is our nest, a quiet little nest, and I can feel my eyelids. They are so dry. I have not blinked in a long time. I do not think I need to anymore. I think I am almost ready to go upstairs, to be with her, in the wonderful, peaceful quiet. But you can still hear me, can you not? You heard the scratch of the pen, the thought of my voice in your mind. That means it is not completely gone. Not yet. Some sounds are persistent. They travel. They find listeners. Be careful what you listen to. And if the world around you ever starts to feel too quiet, if the noises seem muffled, start screaming, and do not ever stop. Subscribe for more. The quiet is coming. The endless corridor. The first time I stepped into the corridor, I thought it was just a hallway, white walls, buzzing lights, and the faint smell of antiseptic. But the air was wrong. Heavy, like it had been waiting for me. Tell me, have you ever walked down a hall that didn't want you to reach the end? It started with rain, the kind that makes the world feel smaller, trapping you in sheets of water that blur headlights into streaks and smear neon into bleeding colors. My windshield wipers barely kept up, and my phone had already died, leaving me to navigate by instinct. That's when I saw an old medical building looming against the storm, like it had been forgotten by time. The sign above the double doors was too corroded to read, but the lock had been broken long before I found it. I told myself I'd only step inside long enough to dry off, long enough to wait out the worst of the storm. But I think the building had other plans. Inside, the waiting room was stripped bare. No chairs, no reception desk. Just tiled floor and the echo of dripping water somewhere deep within. I almost turned back until I noticed the door. It stood slightly ajar at the far wall, leading into a corridor that stretched farther than it should have. Too far for the size of the building. Fluorescent bulbs lined the ceiling, some flickering, some dead, humming with a sound that drilled into my skull. I told myself it was just perspective, just shadows. But when I stepped closer, I couldn't see the end of it. Just white walls and endless light. I walked anyway. At first, it was just strange longer than I expected, but not impossible. Until I noticed the details. A crack in the tile, a smudge on the wall, a burned out bulb. I passed them once, then again, and again. The same imperfections, repeating endlessly, like the corridor was looping itself. I stopped, turned, and walked back the way I came. But when I reached the spot where the waiting room should have been, it was gone. The entrance replaced with more hallway. That's when the panic began. My footsteps echoed too loudly, bouncing back at me like someone else was walking just behind. Every time I turned, the corridor stretched empty, but the sound never stopped. Halfway down, or maybe 100 times halfway, I started hearing whispers. At first, it was static, faint, and low, buried under the buzz of the lights. Then, voices, my voice. Echoes of things I hadn't said yet, things I didn't want to say. I ran. My lungs burned, my chest tightened, but the corridor stretched forever, folding and bending until I could barely breathe. And my shadow, it didn't move right. It stretched longer, sharper, following a beat behind me like it wasn't mine anymore. If you were here, what would you do? Keep running? Or stop and listen? Because the corridor wants you to stop. It wants you to hear. And before I go further, if I vanish, this video might be all that's left of me. Subscribe now, because in places like this, memory fades. And if I fade, I'll need you to remember I was here. The whispers grew clearer. They weren't just my voice anymore. They were voices of people I knew. My mother, a friend I'd lost touch with years ago, a teacher from childhood. They spoke in tones that didn't belong to them, like the corridor was trying on their voices the way a puppet might try on masks. Then the doors appeared, dozens of them built into the walls, each one labeled. My name etched on a brass plate, some with dates I recognized: my birthday, hospital visits, the day I'd broken my arm as a kid. Others had dates I didn't know. I tried one. Inside was my bedroom, exactly as I'd left it years ago. The posters on the wall, the stacks of books by my bed, the crooked lamp on the nightstand. Except I wasn't alone. I was already there, sleeping. My sleeping self rolled over, opened its eyes, and smiled at me. I slammed the door shut and ran, heart pounding. But the corridor didn't care. More doors appeared, more lives. Some versions of me alive, some not. Some doors opened onto nothing at all, just blackness, whispering my name. The longer I stayed, the stranger it became. The corridor breathed, I swear it. The walls pulsed faintly, like lungs inhaling and exhaling. And with each breath, the shadows grew darker. That's when I saw it. Not clearly, never clearly. Always just ahead, around the next corner. A figure made of static, the shape of a man, but wrong in every way. Too tall, too thin. Its hands bent backward at the wrists, reaching out. Every time I blinked, it was closer. I don't think it wants to catch me. I think it wants me to open another door. And I think it wants me to choose the wrong one. I've been walking for hours or days, maybe. Time doesn't work here. My watch stopped. My phone won't even turn on. Sometimes I think I hear the rain again, but when I try to follow it, I end up back where I started. The voices know me now. They don't just whisper. They argue, plead. Some of them cry. Some of them call me by names I don't recognize. I opened another door once. Inside was a hospital room. The smell of antiseptic hit me so hard, it burned my throat. On the bed lay someone connected to machines, wires running across their chest. It was me, but older. And the monitor beside the bed read a flat line. I closed the door, but I can still hear the beep of the machine echoing in my head. I don't know if there's a way out. Maybe the corridor doesn't end. Maybe it never began. But if you're hearing this, if this upload somehow reaches you, listen carefully. If you ever find yourself in a hallway that stretches too far, don't walk it. Don't listen. Don't open the doors, because every door is you. And once you step through, the corridor keeps the original. And if you hear footsteps behind you tonight, don't turn around. That's not your shadow. That's me, still trying to find a way out. The first time the knock came, I didn't answer, but it didn't stop. Have you ever felt a sound waiting for you? Insistent, patient, knowing exactly when you'd hesitate? The house of endless knocks. I moved into the house on a quiet street nobody walks down. The kind of street where even the mailman hesitates. At first, it seemed normal. 2 floors, small garden, paint peeling in places. But the night I arrived, there was a rhythm I couldn't place. A tap, tap, tap against the front door. My own heart. I called it imagination. Boxes to unpack. Jet-lagged nerves. But when the knocks returned, precise, deliberate, I knew something was off. I opened the door. Empty street. No wind, no one anywhere. The first week, the taps appeared on every surface. Windows, walls, even the floorboards beneath me. Always the same pattern. Slow, then fast, never ending. Sometimes it paused just long enough for me to catch my breath, and returned with heavier insistence. The normal world became slightly wrong. Lights flickered in the house, even when I replaced the bulbs. Shadows stretched longer than they should. Mirrors reflected me at odd angles. I saw figures behind me in the reflection, only to turn and find nothing. The first disturbance I couldn't ignore. One night, the door knocked from the inside. I was alone. I couldn't explain it. My hands shook. My throat tightened. I tried to leave, but every exit I took looped me back to the living room, facing the same door. The inescapable pattern became terrifying. The knocks weren't random. They were teaching me rules. Don't move too fast. Don't speak too loud. Don't look too long. I followed. I listened. And yet the house adapted. Walls creaked. Floors shifted. I was never truly alone. I tried to call for help. Phones wouldn't work. Neighbors, when I asked, claimed the house had been empty for decades. Yet each night, the taps continued. Sometimes I could swear they were forming words, not audible, but pressed into my skull. Stay, join, stop. By the midpoint, I understood the trap. The house wasn't just a building, it was alive. Every room shifted subtly when I wasn't looking. Hallways extended impossibly. Doors repeated. Exits vanished. I was trapped, folded into the house's design. Here's the survival instruction. Subscribe now. If you disappear, if this video is all that remains of me, it's proof. The house erases memory. Only witnesses survive. The entity finally revealed itself through my own body. My hand-typed notes I didn't intend. My voice whispered in the hallway, though I hadn't spoken. Messages to friends, texts I never sent. The house could use me. I realized I was part of it. The cost of freedom was horrifying. I could leave physically, but the house's influence followed me. I forgot what was my thought and what was its instruction. My identity fragmented. Reflections in mirrors no longer matched me. Sometimes I woke as someone else or a version of myself shaped by the house. The climax arrived when the knocks became violent. Doors unlocked themselves. Floorboards lifted to swallow rooms whole. Shadows emerged as shapes, tall, thin, faceless, stretching toward me. And then I saw it, my own reflection, knocking from the inside of a window, mouthing words I couldn't hear. The final moments were breathless. I ran. The house didn't chase. It didn't need to. Every step, every turn brought me deeper. The walls weren't walls, they were me. And I wasn't me anymore. The bleed into now is subtle. At night, when a knock comes from a door you know is empty, don't answer. If you do, it may already be too late. And if you're listening to this, subscribe. Witness. Remember, the house collects memory, and if no one remembers, it doesn't just trap bodies, it erases existence. Because the knocks never stop. And one day, they might be for you. Your consciousness is a prison, and you just found the key. You ever wake up and know, without a doubt, that something's wrong? Not outside, not in the room, but inside. I woke up this morning with a truth in my bones. Everything I call me is a prison cell. The memories, the routines, the voice in my head, bricks and mortar. And whatever's been trapped inside just cracked its knuckles. Look, I'm not saying this came to me in a dream or some new age meditation binge. No, it hit me hard like a hammer between heartbeats. The voice in my head, it isn't mine. It just uses me, so it doesn't feel lonely. And here's the worst part. The walls of the prison aren't built around us. They're built inward. Every plan, every habit, every photo of ourselves on a driver's license, that's just wallpaper on the bars. So tonight, I want to tell you what happened when the cracks started showing, and what stepped through them. If you're new here, hit subscribe. Trust me, you'll want someone else's face next to yours when the lights start flickering. Most of us think we're solid. A name, a personality, favorite food, a memory of our mom calling us in for dinner. But it's all stitched together like a cheap movie set, a false front of a building that looks sturdy until the wind rattles it. Psychologists call it the narrative self, a story your brain runs to keep you buying groceries and paying rent. But a story isn't the storyteller. And 3 nights ago, mine slipped. I was brushing my teeth. Ordinary night. Lo-fi beats in the background, minty foam in my mouth. Then the mirror glitched. Not like in a horror movie, no distortion, no blood. Just optional. For 3 impossible seconds, I didn't recognize the reflection. The person brushing their teeth wasn't me. And here's the weird part, I didn't panic. Panic needs a me. For those 3 seconds, there was no me to be afraid. Just silence. When the lights came back, it felt like waking up in a hotel and forgetting what city you're in. Except the hotel was my body. Since then, little things feel wrong. Every memory has a smell of ozone. Every thought tastes metallic. Childhood phone numbers, old crushes, even the sound of my dad's laugh, it all feels thin, like someone pressed it through wet paper. Science has theories. Consciousness is a workspace, or math equations, or particles humming in sync. Fine, but none of that explains the sense that something is pressing against me patient, ancient, waiting to peel me away like wallpaper. And the worst part, I don't think it's evil. I think it's me. Last night, the prisoner made its move. I was texting a friend about grabbing coffee. My thumbs typed out, "Can't make it. Busy dissolving." I swear I didn't mean to type that, but I hit send. The dots popped up. LOL, you okay? I stared at my screen, felt a shrug roll through my shoulders, but it wasn't mine. No demonic growl, no spinning head, just quiet rewrites. A stranger walking me home using my legs. Someone humming my least favorite song with my mouth. The prisoner was free, and it wasn't interested in hiding. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. When the cage melts, what's left isn't joy. It isn't awakening. It's horror. Because if you strip away the labels, your job, your tastes, your story, you're not left with nothing. You're left with continuity without identity. Imagine watching galaxies burn while still having to clock in for your shift. No name, no face, just the watching. And that's the real terror. Not death, not ghosts, but the realization that you might live forever without you. Want proof? Try this with me. Wait for your next thought. Don't force it, just wait. When it arrives, label it planning, judging, remembering. Now, who labeled it? Another thought? Another echo taking credit? Keep watching. You'll notice the watcher slipping, like mirrors reflecting mirrors. That's the key turning. If you felt the crack, subscribe. Not for me. For the version of you 30 seconds from now, you're gonna need company. I tried to script this neatly. Bullet points, clean ending. But every line I write gets overwritten. My fingers type sentences I didn't plan. Over and over, one keeps coming back. You're not hearing a story. You are the story hearing itself. I backspace. It reappears. I delete again. It stays. And then, just now, the lights flickered. For a heartbeat, the room looked curved, off-white, like the inside of a skull. I think the door's open. So if you hear footsteps that sound like yours, but don't feel like yours, don't scream. It's just the prisoner trying on your shoes. Soft inhale, almost static. See you on the other side of the bars.